Welcome, everyone, to the Difference Makers Show. This is Lynn Sanders, your host at Difference Makers Media, and I am really glad you're here today. This is a very special day. It's National Endangered Species Day, and it sort of ties in with our mission, because our mission here is to help you get inspired, motivated, and empowered to make a positive difference in the world. And that's what we're about to do today. We're going to be sharing children's stories from both my illustrious guest and myself to help you make a positive impact. And before we start, I want to engage all of you to write your name and where you're hanging out from in the comment stream. I know that we have some very special people watching, and even though this is last minute, if you're watching on the replay, I'd love to get your comments. So first, I want to acknowledge our wonderful wingman, Roland Takaoka. Roland is the host of the popular Saturday morning Marketing Smarties show, as well as What is the Positive show, and he has been helping me with my website through his company, R&D Hotline, where he is quite a technical genius. I have to say that, Roland. So, Roland, would you say hello to everyone for us, and let us know where you're hanging out from?
Hi, Lynn. This is not so sunny California that I'm coming to you from, and thank you very much for the plug. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Appreciate the acknowledgement. It's
my
really going to be fun having this conversation with you today, and I'm very anxious to hear what you guys bring to the table.
Thank you. And so we're going to start by, I just want to give you a little preview. This is going to be a behind-the-scenes show. Both my guest, Bert Kempner, and I are the authors of children's books. So we're going to share not only our personal journey and a little bit about the stories, but also some pitfalls and things to be aware of if you're interested in writing and publishing stories. So I just want to let you know that I'm very excited because this day is the official launch of my children's book on Amazon in the ebook format. It's called Dancing with Tex: The Remarkable Friendship to Save the Whooping Cranes, and it's been over a decade in the making. And in contrast, Bert Kempner has done his stories in record time, so you're going to hear all kinds of ways of writing and publishing stories. Let me give you a little bio about Bert. First of all, there is great power in social media, and I met Bert through LinkedIn. He just seemed to jump out of the ethers, and he's a very special man, and I found out that we share a lot in common. Bert is an award-winning writer and producer, and his work has taken him all over the world. He has worked professionally in New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Florida, and his work has appeared on PBS, Discovery, the History Channel, CNBC, European and Asian television. How about that? Isn't that exciting? I have to add that. And in addition to that, because of his love for young children, he decided to write children's books. So, Bert, let's start with you. And can you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from writing and producing video projects, which you still do, to children's books? Welcome, Bert.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much. It's a long story that I hope to abbreviate abruptly. So,
all right.
I started out as a news reporter at a top 40 rock and roll station in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And at the request of the radio industry, I joined the television industry. And at the request of the television industry, the film industry, where I've been more or less ever since. And that goes back some 43 years.
Wow.
Yeah. In terms of, I never thought of myself as a children's book writer. I did adopt, my wife and I adopted a young son in 1992, and I love making up stories for him because he's a great kid, and I enjoyed making him laugh.
Sure.
And so one in particular he loved. It was about a narcoleptic blue whale who falls asleep during the migration, and two ships ram into it from either side. And they think they've discovered a new blue island, and they almost go to war over it. And it was just a fun story, and I didn't think anything more about it until after the Gulf War broke out. I said, I'm going to see if anybody wants this.
Mm-hmm.
So I submitted it, and boy, did I get shellacked. I got angry letters saying, this is no
Really?
time for a story like this. And what better time for an anti-war story than war? But I put it in my drawer, and I didn't think anything more about it until I met a terrific illustrator, and I said, she could bring life to this thing. So we got together, and last year, Larry the Lazy Blue Whale came out, followed in fairly short order by Monty the Movie Star Moose. And the rest is well, we hope it's going to be history.
Yeah, well, you told me also a story that you wrote one of your stories like in one day.
Yeah,
Is that the Monty story?
That was the Moose story.
So tell us about that. How did you ever do something like that?
I don't know. I don't know, but I'd like, whatever I was eating or drinking, I would like to find it again. I woke up with the whole story in my head, and around 8 in the morning, I sat down at the keyboard, cackling as I usually do, and I don't know, by 2:30 or something, I said, I can't make this any better. This is as good as I can get it, at least. So I submitted it to my publisher, and around 5 o'clock, I got an email back from them saying, yeah, we want it. This is great. And by 8 o'clock, I had a contract. So
that's unbelievable.
Approximately 12 hours.
From start to finish. I don't know if anyone could match that. That would be a remarkable achievement. And
I haven't done it since then, Lynn.
Yeah. And how did you think of Monty the Moose?
I had no idea. I just woke up and I just knew the story.
It just came to you. Well, Bert, Roland is a spiritual person as I am, as I know you are, and people listening probably are, I would think, as well, because we're all attracted here together. So I would think that this story could have been perhaps brought to you from a higher source. That would be my thinking, that it needed to come out to people. What do you think about that?
It really could be, Lynn. My stories tend to be pretty funny. Because I like to laugh a lot, and I like to make other people's laugh. But the research has shown that children retain information really well if they're laughing while they're reading it. So, Monty is fun, and it's a very silly, happy story. But there's a little bit in there about celebrity worship and the hollowness of it, and being able to accept yourself for who or what you are. And in this story, Monty is happily living with his friend up in the woods, and he overnight grows a golden chin hair, which makes him think he's the most special moose who ever lived, and it becomes insufferable to those around him, and they urge him to go to Hollywood, which he does after many travails, and nobody wants to see him at the studios, and he's very downcast, and he goes to the park to brood, and a big shot producer finds him there and gets all excited and invites him to his penthouse for an A-list party that night, and Monty is just beside himself with joy. Well, it turns out that when people come in, they put their hats and coats up on Monty's antlers.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, he's nothing but a pair of legs sticking out of a bunch of clothing. So he returns home a little sadder and wiser. But there's some other elements at work there.
I love that.
I'd love to know how your story.
Yeah, well, I'm going to share. I wanted to pull out first from you what yours is about. So what you're doing, which is similar to mine, is you're communicating not just a story but values. Would you say when you say celebrity worship? We see that all around us, everywhere we turn, in all the magazines, at every grocery store. It's who's the latest celebrity, and you can see why kids get affected by all of that. So you're letting people know that they don't need to have celebrity worship, right? They can value themselves.
And especially, just be happy with who you are, and appreciate your friends because they're your friends, not who they can introduce you to or show you good times. So there's something in there, and I think actually from the little testing we've done, kids are picking it up.
That's terrific.
But they're laughing too.
What I'd like to do is we're going to pause for a moment to go to the comments, but I wanted to say that perhaps after the show, you can write down your Amazon link So people,
Okay.
Bert can find Larry the Blue Whale and Monty the Moose. So Roland, I'm going to turn over to you for a moment because our comment tracker is not working and I can't see who's out there. Could you share with us, Roland, who's here and what comments are being shared right now? Roland, I don't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry
There
about
you
that.
are.
Yeah,
Okay.
WeWake is out there and commenting, and also Gary Whalen is visiting us today. But WeWake had a statement that he added regarding what you were saying about stories coming out. And he says, when a story is already within you and trying to come out, it waits for an opportunity, then comes out all at once. And he addressed
Oh,
that to Bert.
Yeah,
So,
that's terrific. Yeah, I totally concur.
that's
and I believe
beautiful.
that, if I might add, that basically we look at that like miracles happening and divine inspiration. So whatever we call it came out of you, Bert. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's necessarily a message coming through you, but it's you expressing what's already in you. I like that.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Roland. That's nice.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thanks
Great
you for the
feedback.
comment. Yes.
Definitely. Well, I was just going to share a little bit about how my story has some parallels to yours, Bert,
Hmm.
and also very different. And now you had a traditional publisher, correct? You went through
Yes.
for your
Yes.
story, and it's available in ebook,
Only
correct?
an ebook.
Only
That's
ebook right
a
now.
point of contention between my publisher and myself. Yeah, but it's only available, and you can get it on Amazon, and it will run on any ebook reader. It says Kindle, but if you have an iPad, it'll run on that. So yeah, don't be put off by the Kindle.
Sure. So just to give you a little background, and we'll move into my stories, but I also came from a writing and producing background, and I still do that professionally for clients, for difference makers, nonprofits, and entrepreneurs. But before all of that, I had worked for a commercial music company, and I wrote commercials for radio and TV. I wrote lyrics. My claim to fame was the WGN TV station logo, Chicago's very own Channel 9, with Lou Rawls singing the song. And when he made $10,000 for the hour and I made $100, I knew that I needed to move on. Even though I had a great time at the music company, I also wrote live trade shows for Fortune 500 companies. And because of all those contacts, I was able to easily transition into having my own company, which was Park Avenue Productions, and then later Park Avenue Marketing, now Difference Makers Media. And so I found that stories seemed to pop up all over the place, and I got interested in children's stories because like you adopted child. I had two boys, and I was going through the library, pouring through all kinds of stories, and they really wanted they wanted stories of real people. I remember my son loved baseball, and we couldn't find any younger age books for kids on baseball players. So he would actually sleep with books on his bed with his hands down,
Right.
touching the books because he loved the stories so much of real people. And so it happened that in 1995, I was on a video shoot that was sponsored by Amico for the International Crane Foundation. And Amico wanted to show their international marketing managers that they were doing something good for the environment. They were sponsoring an outdoor exhibit for whooping cranes. And off camera, the co-founder of the International Crane Foundation, George Archibald, told me a personal story. You see, I was interviewing both the Amico executives and George Archibald, so Amico would be able to show their international marketing managers of the good things they were doing. And George shared how many years ago, he had had a special friendship with a rare whooping crane who believed she was a person because she had been imprinted, her brain had been affected by a zookeeper. She was raised initially by the zookeeper. And I had never heard that something like that was actually possible, that a bird could think that she was a person. And the point of the story was that the whooping cranes were on the verge of extinction, and George knew that he had to do something to help that crane lay a fertile egg because otherwise they could die off forever. And since today's National Endangered Species Day, I thought it would be very
Hmm.
fitting to share a little bit of that story, And it took 6 years. And you talk, Bert, about values. But when I heard that it took him 6 years to get this bird to lay a fertile egg,
Yes.
I was really impressed, because he had to have a lot of faith in himself and belief that he could do it no matter what, and most of all, perseverance. And the hard thing for me was, I thought this would be a great children's story, but how do I ever write a story that deals with artificial insemination? Because he didn't just dance with the bird; he had to dance, and then he's going to have special injections given to Tex. Tex was the name of the bird because she was born in Texas. So I struggle with this. Like, unlike you, where you wrote it in one day and had it published, I went back and forth, and George Archibald was kind enough to send me emails filling in more details of a story. I wrote it all different ways, from the point of view of the bird, from George, as a couple story, as a picture book, a chapter book. It actually got accepted once by a traditional publisher, and then they ran out of funding. So I was back, it was like this, up and down. And I just thought, I don't know, I've got to publish this story someday, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I took courses. There's a wonderful national organization that everyone who cares about children's stories needs to be aware of, called SCBWI, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And they help you learn how to build your storytelling ability. So they have groups, and they have different courses and conferences. So I studied with them, and about a year and a half ago, my younger son said to me, very seriously, "Mom, why don't you just forget that story? You don't need to publish it. Just move on." And it was like the kick in the pants that I needed, because I thought, if I just keep waiting for someday to happen, it's never going to happen. And I just thought, what, I've just got to do it myself and stop relying on if a publisher will see it and like it. So about a year ago, I did a crowdfunding site through Indiegogo, and a number of people in the Google Plus community were wonderfully helpful and got this story out, and I raised a little over $2,000, which helped pay for the illustrator and some of my initial costs. And sort of the rest is history. So, I just last Sunday launched the ebook version, and this has been over 10 years in the making. And we are going to have a print version probably in about a month to 6 weeks. I wanted to say a big thank you to my illustrator, Sergio Drummond, who is just a magical illustrator. I wanted to show you a copy of this, how it looks. And to top it off, I think through the law of spiritual attraction, I needed someone to lay the text out on the pages, because Sergio's specialty is in drawing, not in laying out the copy. And a wonderful woman who may be listening on this show now or later, Ann Knipp, found me through LinkedIn, just how I met you. And she has a group called Chicago Kids Media, and she offered to help me in laying out the graphic design on the pages. I met with her to explain my ideas, and has been also serving as editor. So that's the long version, but it was a process where I learned myself to have faith, belief, and perseverance to make a story.
And you knew nothing about self-publishing before.
No, I knew nothing. I just decided I was going to dive in and get it done, And as an aside, the people at the Crane Foundation didn't really want to help me in any way at this point. So I, even though George had helped me with telling the story, I had not gotten any, support from them, either financially or in time. But a number of other people organizations helped in bringing the story to life. And George's organization did at the beginning, and that was San Antonio Zoo, where this chick was hatched. They made a contribution to the story. Patuxent Wildlife Research Center, the nation's first research center for wildlife, they helped me with their time and research. And most recently, a company called Center for Biological Diversity, helping save all different species. They also made a contribution to get this book into life. So I want to encourage anyone listening that if you have a dream, to go for it. Don't wait for others to sign off, because you can do it if you have that faith and belief and perseverance.
Yeah, you became the hero of your own story.
And that's the behind the scenes.
Well, there are parallels between you and George.
That
I
is
think.
true. That's what's happening. Although George may not realize it, but he's going to find out. I want to switch over to you now, Bert, because
Sure.
we've told a bit about our stories and our journey, and I'd like to share what are the things that people listening need to be aware of when they write and publish. What have you learned?
Okay, I've got two things jump out to me immediately. One is when you start writing a story, don't depend on being topical because it can take a couple of years before you start and it finally comes out. Uh, and at which point what you're writing about probably has lost relevance if that's all you're basing it on, if that's your thing. Secondly, even if you're self-publishing, review that contract. Get a lawyer to look at it. There are so many pitfalls.
Yes,
When
yes.
when I attained an agent and she saw the contract I had signed, her only comment was one question: "Are you crazy?" And she had me convinced by the time she went over it. Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I didn't know any better, and so I signed it. But now I know a lot better. So yeah, I should have had a lawyer take a
So
look at
tell
it.
us, I'm going to ask you, okay, now
Yeah.
you were published by a traditional publisher, you
Yeah.
said, right? So
Hmm.
could you be specific about what were those pitfalls that you fell into so we help our
Yeah.
listeners not fall into them?
Sure, the rights, the international rights, TV rights, film rights. I mean, I gave everything up, and there's the only thing I should have surrendered to them was the book rights to that one thing. I never should have given away everything else. That
So,
was insane of me.
so what does that mean to you then? You can't go forward with the movie rights to this? What does
I
that mean?
can, but I have to go through them,
Oh, wow.
and you know that to me is a drawback.
Right.
I'd love my agent who understands the film business very, very well to be able to negotiate that for me, but I can't.
So what you're saying is people really should have a literary attorney out there to check over
Yeah.
the contract, or unless they have a friend or a family member who's an attorney, be very
Do
careful.
do not be afraid to go through the contract and strike things out or write amendments into it. You know.
You, I wonder if you did this, Bert. I almost signed there was a 25-page contract that I had received from a
Hmm.
unnamed self-publisher, and I found something in it that stopped me cold because actually had written a different children's book that was a work for hire several years ago where I don't own the royalties, but it was agreed that I would just write it as a project. And I found something in the contract that said how they would own, a certain percentage of rights. I forgot what it was. And I went to Google, and I think this is something people might forget, and just typed in the name of the publishing company and then complaints.
Hmm.
Have you ever thought of that to see what other people are saying? So sometimes you can find things out that aren't told and then investigate, you know.
Right.
What about any other recommendations that you'd like to give people about writing or publishing? What do you think would be helpful?
Um, don't write to the market. Write to your heart.
Ah,
Uh, and don't follow what you think is popular. Don't do formulas. Uh, write from your heart at all times, and I'm not guaranteeing you'll get published, but you'll have an enduring work that has value and integrity.
right. Well, a thing that most publishers don't do is marketing. And I think it's really important for us to talk about that as well, because if you're going to be writing or publishing a book, I think you want to think about what is your end goal. Some people might just want to write a story for their family, and that's totally fine. I know a
Hmm.
woman who did that. But if you're writing for a bigger audience, as you are, Bert, what would you recommend? And I'd like to also add, my thoughts to market your book, because I've found most publishers do not do marketing. You're going to have to find
Yeah.
someone else to help you with that.
Yeah.
Or let's see, what have you done or not done, or what do you recommend for people who want other people to find their book?
The major thing that I've done is take advantage of my social media, which has taken me years to build up. Uh, and that was the main source. I would say at least half of my sales came from I know from my people because I read the reviews, and I said, oh, that's one of my people. But yeah, you can retain professionals. That to me is a little, possibly its own set of traps. I don't know what appeals to you, Lynn.
Well, good point. I actually been studying this a lot, because each step along the way for children's books has been new. I recently even attended a webinar about how to publish a best-selling children's book. And it said to go into Amazon and type in children's books bestsellers and analyze what's selling out there. So you were saying, don't publish, don't work for the market. But, if you want to see what's selling, it can be helpful, I think, to see the style of books. Animals are popular with kids, as are superheroes. And so if you, and also, real people. So if you want to take a look at that, you can see how they package the book, what kinds of illustrations are appealing, and you could model some of those ideas, I think, after what other people are doing who are successful. You bring up social media. I think that's crucial in today's world. More and more people are getting their news through social media, and as Roland knows, and has been very diligent in talking about the internet tripod. And Roland, you can jump in. And I agree with Roland. He has coined the phrase internet tripod, meaning to make an impact in the world, you've got to have a great website, and you've got to be engaged in social media. And the last is what we're doing right now is you've got to get involved in video, because people are not reading as much. So what I learned from that webinar is you can take your book and create an audio book from it, which I just started to do last night. That's how new this is. And then offer that as a giveaway, as an opt-in on your website. So I am just in the process of creating a separate website for Dancing with Text. It's not even out there yet. My old one is dancingwithtext.wordpress.com, but I soon will have a new one of dancingwithtext.com. So I would recommend, if you want to really get your name out there, to have a website, have an opt-in where people can actually give you their name and email, and perhaps give them an audiobook or something of value related to your book. And then last but not least, promote it on social media and get people to know about it. There are a lot of people who are willing to help you. And I have to give credit to my niece, Laura Bogan, who may be listening to this later. I'm learning all the time, especially from the younger generation. She told me I could be an affiliate of Amazon. I had no idea about this. You probably know. But even if you haven't written a book, if you like a book, Amazon will allow you to have an affiliate number, and you can talk to me later about that. It takes a little explaining. And you can promote your book or someone else's book and get money back for it, which I thought was amazing. So there's a lot to learn, and I would certainly be happy to answer questions after, or you can. I'd like to just turn to Roland for a moment to see if there are any other comments that we'd like to share, because we're going to be having a green room in a few minutes after this show.
Wake had a very nice comment addressed to you, and he says,
okay.
Well, we can tell our children that our human babies are delivered by other birds. Why can't we tell something similar about the birds themselves, Lynn Sanders? So, and he adds to that, what you explained just means your story was not ready while it was inside you. It just wasn't ready yet. So now it's ready.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, I think it all comes down to having that belief in yourself, and you have to just, Vivek, have to say, okay, this is good enough. I kept changing it, even at the end. So at one point, I think every writer has to say, okay, it's fine, let's move on. And that's what I ended up doing.
Can I
Sure.
give you an accolade too, because this is an Endangered Species Day, and whooping cranes are endangered species, and I think you approached this topic really, really sensitively and well, because now I'm writing a series on endangered species, and it's a real careful tightrope walk to get the kids engaged without making them panicked or frightened or having nightmares, or feel helpless. On the other hand, they get them empowered and want to do something. The first of my series is about an elephant who goes to kind of a Hogwarts for animals, and it returns to tell the other elephants about the danger that they're in. And she represses this memory until she's hypnotized. And I think I wrote it for older kids, slightly older kids, because I don't really know how well 6-year-old can handle this information. But I really was impressed by the way that you did it.
Thank you, Bert. Bert was the first person who who bought my ebook. He told me, I didn't even know, because I had just published it on a Sunday, and I don't know how you found it, Bert. Maybe I mentioned it to you. I was shocked, and then you were kind enough to write a review. That's another good thing that everyone can be aware of, is that if you write a book, it's great to have reviews, and Bert and I would love it if you would give us reviews on Amazon, because people love to hear what others have to say. But you're right. I was worried that with my book, because I wrote it as an older book, chapter book, and a picture book, that maybe it might get banned, I don't know, by parents who don't want to have their kids learn about we didn't say artificial insemination, we said special shots and injections. But I mean, people do know that people have to get together to have babies, so I try to be as sensitive as I could, Anyway, it is Endangered Species Day, and so if all of you would be kind enough to think about what you might do to make a difference. You don't have to do anything, but maybe there is something you can do to check out. There's a site that's called Center for Biological. It's called biologicaldiversity.org, and learn what they're doing. Or Google EndangeredEarth.org. Send out a message, I'd say, to on your social media page, or on a Twitter, to some government agency to take care of our land animals. I don't know if I don't think I read this at the opening. Remind me, Bert, if I did, about the statistics. Did I
No.
say any?
No.
Because I forgot. I know we're going like 2 minutes over. I'd like to just share this with you. At the back of my children's book, I decided, because I wanted it to also appeal to families, to put in a glossary, helpful vocabulary words, and a question and answers. And I did some research, not only on George and on text, but on endangered species. And this is from a website called EndangeredEarth.com. It says that as of 2016, our world has 16,306 endangered species, plants and animals, who face extinction. In the U.S. alone, there are 750 plants and 574 animals. That's a lot of series birds. 574 animals who are endangered. We must speak up to protect our world. Extinct species never return. And the point of all this, and the reason I'm so moved by caring about our endangered species, is that we need to see the oneness. I feel that we're all connected, plants, animals, and people. We all inhabit this earth together. So if we're going to hurt our earth and hurt other creatures or plants, we're also ultimately hurting ourselves. There's a ripple effect. So we can be positive by spreading the word and protecting endangered species, by protecting our land and protecting the animals who inhabit that land, and ultimately making this a better world. So I'd like to ask Bert for any closing thoughts before we go, and then I'm going to invite everyone listening, if you would like, to join us for a few minutes in the green room. So Bert, what would you like to share with our listeners as a parting thought?
Okay, couple quick things. Endangered Species series coming out next year. There is a Moose sequel, Monty, Moose on the Run. Hopefully will be available around Christmas. And I just wanted to share my favorite quote in the world from writer Wendell Berry. It says, "Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts."
I love it. Roland, I know you said I shouldn't ask you for engagement during our show, but is there something you would like to say? I have to include you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lynn. I just want to say it's been a pleasure listening and participating in this because it's such a worthwhile movement, and I really applaud you that you spent a little bit of time expanding the awareness on this concept and sharing it with the world, putting a little bit of yourself and Bert also into the spirit of that expansion. So that was really good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a closing, I want to say to everyone, you don't have to be a children's book author to have stories within you. You all make a difference in the world by just spreading your light, by just shining a light, by smiling at someone and showing that you care, because we all make an impact. And certainly if you have stories, don't be afraid. Don't hold them in your drawer for 10 years and don't keep going over and over a story. Let them come out. Give them a chance because they definitely can make an impact on others. And so with all that said, I want to thank you again for attending, and please keep sharing your stories. Have a great day. Bye-bye.